All right, today we're going to be in Unit 4, Probability in Two-Way Tables, and we're going to be on the last notes page, which is page 16, and we're talking about two-way tables today. So a two-way table, is a table that records data that pertains to two different categories. I ran out of room, so excuse that, but two different categories. So if you look at number 1, okay, our two categories are if it's male and female, and if they write with their left or their right hand. So, number 1, the two-way table below shows the results from a survey in which students were asked their gender and their dominant writing hand. So, we're going to fill in this table, all the blank boxes, okay? So, looking at this first column, we have left-handed. So, they tell us that 7 males are left-handed and 9 females are left-handed. So, to get our total to fill in this box down here, I just add 9 and 7 together, and that gives me 16. All right, same thing for right-handed. We have the total of males, the total of females, so to get the total, I'm going to add those two numbers together, and I get 134. All right, now I want the total number of males, so we're looking at the first row. Okay, and I have how many were left-handed, how many were right-handed, so I'm going to add those together, and that gives me 55. Total for female, we have 9 left-handed, 86 right-handed, so that gives me 95. And then for this box right here, you can either add up those two numbers, or you can add up these two numbers. Okay, they should give you the same answer, which is 150. All right, so joint frequencies are the individual data entries, like these boxes right here, and the marginal frequencies is the sum. So those are the boxes that we filled in. Those are marginal frequencies. All right, let's look at number 2. Upon exiting, passengers on a plane were asked if this was their final destination and if they checked any bags. The results are shown in the table below. Complete the table by filling in the missed joint and marginal frequencies. All right, so in our first row, okay, all we're missing is the total. So I just need to add 50 and 16 together, which gives me 66. In our second column, I have the total, and I have how many people did not check their bags. So I want to find how many people did check their bags. So I'm going to do 134 minus 48, and that's going to give me 86. All right, for the second row, I need to add 16 and 48 together to get the total, which gives me 64. All right, and then again, for this box right here, I can either add up those two numbers or I can add up those two numbers, and they should give me the same thing, which is 200. All right, so that's just filling in a two-way table. Now we're going to talk about relative frequencies. So joint relative frequencies are the values in each category divided by the total, and marginal is the sum of the joint relative frequencies in each row and column. So what we're going to do to fill in these 4 boxes, okay, we're going to take the number from the existing table and we're going to divide it by the total. So For our first box right here, I'm going to do 50 divided by 200, and that gives me 0.25. All right, for my second box, I'm going to do 86 divided by 200, and that gives me 0.43. For my next box, I'm going to do 16 divided by 200, and that gives me 0.08. And then for my last box, I'm going to do 48 divided by 200, which gives me 0.25. All right, so that's how we find the joint relative frequencies. Now for the marginal frequencies, we're doing like we were doing before, and we're just going to add our rows and columns together. So for our first column, the yes column, I'm going to do 0.25 plus 0.08, and that gives me 0.33. For the no column, I'm going to do 0.43 plus 0.2, oops, this should be a 4, 0.24, that gives me 0.67. All right, for my rows, I'm going to add the yes row, so 0.25 plus 0.43, that gives me 0.68. The no row, 0.08 plus 0.24 is 0.32. And then, like before, you can either add those two boxes together or these two boxes together. And when you're doing a relative frequency two-way table, you should always get 1 in that box. Okay? All right, let's look at page 17. Students in a band were asked if they rented or owned their instrument and if they practice at home. Their results are shown in the table below. If a student is chosen at random, find each probability. All right, so looking at our table, one thing that you should notice is that we don't have total columns or total rows. So when you're finding probability, you need the totals. So we're going to add a total row and a total column. Okay, it's just going to make our life a whole lot easier when we start answering these probability questions. All right, so now I'm going to find the total of how many rent their instruments, which is 62 plus 28. And that gives me 90. The total that owns is 20 plus 15. That gives me 35. The totals that practice is 62 plus 20, which is 82. And then the total that don't practice is 28 plus 15, which is 43. Now I can add either the row or the total column together. So I'm going to do 82 plus 43, and that gives me 125. All right, so now we can do the probabilities now that we have the totals. So, A, the probability that they do not practice. So that means I want the total for how many do not practice over my total. Okay, so our total that does not practice is 43, and my total is 125. I need to make sure that that is in simplest form, and it is. So that probability is 43 over 125. All right, part B, the probability that they practice and rent their instrument. So I'm going to find where practice and rent meet, which is at 62. over my total, which is 125. I need to make sure that that is simplified, and it is. All right, part C, which is down here, okay, this one's set up a little bit different. This little bar, okay, when you see that, it means given that. So the probability that they do not practice given that they own their instrument. So when you see that given that bar, whatever category comes after it, that's what goes on the bottom of my denominator. So how many total people own their instrument? 35. Okay, we see that right there in our table. Now, out of those 35, because I'm only looking at the own their instrument row, out of those 35, how many do not practice? That would be 15. And that's how you would do the probability there. So let me make sure that that doesn't need to be simplified, and it actually can be simplified to 3/7. All right, let's do another one. Probability that they rent their instrument given that they practice. So remember, whatever comes after our given that bar goes on the bottom of our probability fraction. So here's practices. We're looking at this column and that column only. So 82 is going to go on the bottom. And then out of those 82, 62 rent their instruments. So 62 over 82, that one can also be simplified to 31/41. All right, number 5. A test was given to 3 classes. The results are shown below. If a student of one of these classes is chosen at random, find each probability. So again, if you look, we do not have a total row or a total column. So we're going to add one. All right, so the total for pass, I'm going to do 19 plus 24 plus 21. That gives me 64. Total that did not pass is 3 plus 8 plus 5, which is 16. Class A has 22 people in it. Class B has 28 people in it. And Class C has 26 people in it. So when I add 22, 28, and 26, well, I added wrong. Oh, wait, hold on. 24 plus 8 is definitely 32. So that gives me 80. All right. Now that we have our totals, we can do our probabilities. So the probability that they're in Class B. So I want my total number for Class B, which is 32, over the total people in this two-way table, which is 80. Now I'm going to make sure that doesn't have to be simplified, and it can, to 2/5. All right. Part B, probability that they're in Class C or passed. Now, since it says or, okay, I want the total for Class C and the total that passed. All right, but if you look, well, let's do this first. So that would be 26 plus 64 over 80. All right, but if you look, this 21 is being counted twice. We counted that in the past and the Class C. So I'm going to go back and subtract 21 from that. So I'm going to do 26 plus 64 minus 21 over 80. which gives me 69 over 80. All right. Part C, the probability that they did not pass given that they're in Class A. So we're only looking at our Class A row. My total for Class A goes on the bottom, which is 22. And out of those 22, 3 did not pass. Okay, so that fraction cannot be simplified. Part D, the probability that they're in Class B given that they passed. So we're looking at our passed column. So 64 total passed. And then out of those 64, 24 were in Class B. And that can be simplified to 3 over 8. All right, number 6. A restaurant has chocolate, strawberry, or vanilla ice cream available in a cup or a cone. The table to the left gives the choices of the last 200 people who ordered. Complete the table below with the joint and marginal relative frequencies. So remember, when you're finding the relative frequencies, you take these numbers and you're going to divide them by the total. All right? So for chocolate, I have 42 divided by 200. That gives me 0.21. Then I have 55 divided by 200. That gives me 0.275. Then I'm going to add those decimals together, and I get 0.485. All right, the next one, strawberry. So 28 divided by 200. 0.14, 22 divided by 200, 0.11. I add those decimals together and I get 0.25. Vanilla, 18 divided by 200 is 0.09. 35 divided by 200, 0.175. I add those two fractions together and I get 0.265. Now I need to add up for my total for cup. So 0.21 plus 0.14 plus 0.09. That gives me 0.44. I'm going to add up my cup for cone, or I'm going to add up my total for cone. 0.275 plus 0.11 plus 0.175. That gives me 0.56, and I can either add up those 3 decimals or these 2 decimals, and I should get I should get 1. Whew, that was a lot. All right, let's do the probabilities. A is the probability of a cone. All right, well, back up. So basically, the joint relative and marginal frequency, these are the probabilities of that specific box occurring. So for example, the box of getting a chocolate cup is 0.21. Instead of being in fraction form, it's in decimal form, which is completely okay. So we don't have to make a fraction in this case. So probability of a cone, so I'm just going to find my total for cone, and that's going to be my answer. All right, part B, the probability of a cup or chocolate. Okay, so we have our total for cup and our total for chocolate. So that's 0.44 plus 0.485. But then if you look, chocolate's being counted twice, so I need to subtract that out. And that gives me 0.715. All right, now the last two will have a fraction because they have that given that bar. So the probability of strawberry given that it's a cone. So I'm only looking at the cone column. So my total is 0.56. And then out of those 0.56, 0.11 is strawberry. So I'm going to simplify that fraction, and it gives me 0.1964. All right, same thing with the next one. Probability that it's a cup given that it's not vanilla. So that means I'm going to be looking at strawberry and chocolate. All right, so I need to add up my totals for the bottom. 0.485 plus 0.25. And then those need to be cups. So 0.21 plus 0.14. So when I type all that in, I get 0.4762. All right, now that ends the lesson for two-way tables.